Welcome back, everyone. It's Eric, Xander, and Carl from Rare Candy here today. We have a bit of a post-Worlds, post-DC Open discussion video. Actually, kind of excited about this. This is our first kind of like group video that we've done since adding Carl and Zach on board. We have not been able to work out schedules to, collaborate with everyone on a single video, or a lot of us in a single video. So this will be kind of fun. All of us did good Worlds this past year that was held in Washington, D.C. We finally got back, and I think everyone's finally getting a little bit settled in. And so we just kind of wanted to go over some of our thoughts here before, we kind of forget some of the details about our experience. So I did play in the main event. I will be doing a separate video on my specific tournament report, so definitely keep your eyes peeled for that as well. But today we're going to be talking about just Worlds more generally as an experience here. So I guess just to kick things off, let's go through maybe, just what your general experience was like, guys, and maybe, maybe what Worlds is this for you, and, just some of the importance of the event to you. So Xander, I'll pass this over to you to start with, okay?
Yeah, so I didn't play in Worlds. I didn't get my invite this year just because I wasn't able to go to a lot of events or really dedicate the time. And then I didn't really want to play in the Open either because with school next year, I didn't think I'd be able to commit the time then either for like a full season worth of like points and trying to get my invite. So I just went to go play and hang out, and it was a super fun time. I don't have a ton of international friends in the community, so Worlds is kind of just like a Nationals part two, but it's still really fun just to be able to see everyone from throughout the game and like get to follow up with people that are from all around the country. There are the demos also for Sword and Shield and Pokemon Masters that were really fun, and just like a good time to kind of like remind myself why I enjoyed the game as like a spectator, because so often we're like in the tournament, we're thinking about the tournament, we're not really thinking about like what's fun as we're doing it. We're just like, okay, this is the deck I brought, and we're going through the motions and we're playing. So it was really nice just to like take a step back and like watch the whole event from like someone who is almost essentially like new to it. Like it's just an experience that it was fresh for something that really hadn't been for a while. So I really enjoyed Worlds just because like a more of a perspective thing of like, these are the reasons I enjoy Pokemon.
So Worlds for me was, well, this is my second Worlds, and I've been playing for too long, but Worlds for me this year was pretty much all about representing Rare Candy and also bringing as much support as I could to those people that I knew were grinding really hard, trying to avoid the burnout of the long season, and just a place for us to like celebrate like the end of a really awesome year. This year for me, things just really took off for me as far as like the trading card game goes and the relationships that I've been able to build. And for me, Worlds was kind of like celebrating that. So many people that I've been able to meet with or talk to over the course of the year were there. Some people that I knew only from the internet were there. So being able to meet all them, hang out, just forget about real life for a couple of days, and also provide me the opportunity to support some of the local juniors and seniors that I know, other masters that I know and test with. That's kind of what Worlds was to me this year. I had the opportunity to play in the Open, which generally went well. But honestly, a lot of my energy was put toward keeping my friends in high spirits, helping them be ready for, the World Championship, which was very important to all of them. So Worlds to me provided just an opportunity to support my friends, learn more about the game, kind of establish myself as, one, a member of Rare Candy, and two, somebody who's just a good friend, a good mentor, and somebody who loves the game and everything about it in the community. So that's where I wanted Worlds to be for me this year, and then next year we'll worry about top 16, top 8, that kind of fun stuff.
Nice. Yeah, so for me, this was my third Worlds, my second as a competitor, and this year in particular is actually kind of special for me, even though it's not my first one playing. And my second, you think it lose a little bit of its magic, after the first one. But the fact that it was in DC was actually kind of important to me because my first Worlds I got to go attend was 2014 or 2015. I forget the year. It was the last time Worlds was
2014.
Okay, there we go. 2014 apparently. So that was the last time Worlds was held in DC, and at the time I didn't play super aggressively. I would describe myself semi-competitively. I went to events when I could, but I was never grinding for an invite. So I was there playing in, at the time, there was an event called the Last Chance Qualifier, or the Grinder, as the community had dubbed it. So that's what I was playing in last time I went to a DC Worlds, and I went primarily as kind of a spectator there to support, some of my friends who were playing. And so it was honestly just kind of special for me to be able to get invited back to actually play as a player in the main event this year. It, to me, just kind of made me realize, I guess, like how far I'd come as a player over the past like half decade or almost a decade of playing competitively again. So that was really exciting for me. As far as some of the specifics of the event, I did get to play in the actual tournament. Did make it to day 2 of the event. Day 2 didn't go quite as well for me, unfortunately, but nevertheless, as these guys have said, part of the fun with Worlds is just getting to go see friends, root for your friends who were, playing in the Open, like Carl, or who were still doing well in day 2, like Zach from the channel. So I had people to root for while I was there, but nevertheless, it was still fun. They had a demo of Pokemon Sword and Shield. I believe it was the same demo from E3, so if you guys have seen videos from like the gym battle that was on the floor at E3 this past year, I believe it was the same demo. So I unfortunately did skip Nats this year, so I was excited because I was like, you know what? Even if I scrub out, I'm just going to drop and play Sword and Shield. And so I did get to do that a little bit. But, like these guys have said, it's a chance just to like connect with people that you don't get to see as much, much like with a regional or a nationals type of event. So overall, it was a pretty good time. Couldn't really complain too much. For me personally, my girlfriend was originally supposed to come up with me, and we were supposed to do some sightseeing. She unfortunately couldn't get off work, so it wound up just being me. So I didn't get to go see a lot of the capital, which was a bit of a bummer. But just in terms of Worlds itself, it was a pretty good experience overall. So it sounds like all of us had a pretty good time there this year. Getting into maybe some of the specifics of the actual event, though. One thing I kind of want to switch gears and talk about is maybe some of the cards and or decks that kind of surprised us, maybe both at Worlds and in the DC Open as well. There were definitely a few. I remember looking at the day 1 results for Worlds and thinking, what is this metagame? Like, there were so many. Like, there's always rogue and wacky decks that pop up at events, but I feel like, especially in day 1 of Worlds, they took up a pretty large share of the metagame, or a much larger share than I expected. So I'd like us to kind of get into some of that stuff. Carl, we'll start with you, man. What are some interesting cards or interesting decks that popped up that you really weren't expecting to show up?
Well, leading up to Worlds in the Open, I was really testing Gardevoir Sylveon tag team really heavily. It was a list that I was like working on pretty hard, and I was very open about it, like via Twitter and like on my stream and stuff like that. However, I was not expecting anybody else to really bring it or play it. I think it had the best matchup spread going into the World Championship, just by virtue of the fairy charms and the power plants that it could play. But I didn't think other people were going to take it seriously. And then what I saw when I got there was a lot of the Japanese players had shown up with it, and a lot of really notable American players did too. So I was pretty happy about that people were able to like kind of think outside the box a little bit and not settle on one of the Reshis or Picaroms or Malamars and just kind of go a little bit further. As far as the Open goes, one of the decks that I saw in the Open that I've been kind of fooling around with lately is the Victini Keldeo GX deck. It looks really weird, and it looks like it has only a few good matchups, but actually playing around with it, it's pretty powerful and strong. So seeing a lot of creativity like throughout the entire event, to me personally, it gives me something like a bunch of ideas to try out too, which makes Worlds even better. Like, you come home with so many more ideas. But the two things that I was really happy to see and kind of surprised about were the amount of Gardevoir Sylveon being played, and then like people doing neat things with Keldeo, whether it was in Quagnag or even in its own dedicated deck. So those two things to me were pretty awesome.
Well, I I mean, in case you guys out there didn't see, we actually had an exclusive article on Gardevoir Sylveon on our Patreon, and we were kind of pushing that. So, do you think you helped? Do you help manipulate the meta, Carl? Pushing your article like that?
Carl, you're a meta manipulator.
I don't manipulate the meta, my friends. I set the meta. So.
Okay, that's what we'll go with.
Dab on the haters.
Yeah.
I guess I can talk next. I done like no Worlds testing because since I wasn't playing in the Open and no one really in my area was playing in Worlds, I had no real reason to test it. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna hang out. So the only game that I've played in this format was when my friends were like, Xander, I need you to proxy Reshizard before the tournament. And I was like, okay. And the only cards that weren't proxied were like fire energies. Like it was so badly proxied. But it ended up being really fun. And then from there, since I had no clue what was going on, like the round 1 world stream was the Pidgeotto control deck that DDG had brought versus the Mew Mewtwo deck that Limitless had brought. And I was just like, what the heck? Like, people are playing these things? And, like, the games were just crazy. Like, the Mew Mewtwo killed 3 Pidgeottos in one turn, and then he donked game 2, did some crazy stuff. So the whole format was just like, wow, people are playing this. And then in the Open, I remember that a few people played, like, Fossils with Welder, and then there was Sam Vernoy played Slowpoke Psyduck, which was super cool. Xander, after a poor finish in Worlds, like won the Open with his Naganadel deck. So like I feel like everywhere I turned, I was like, whoa, people are playing like these like super unique decks. And I think a lot of people don't. I think some people think the meta is stale whenever like the same decks do well. But if you look at it, there's so much innovation coming into Worlds this year. Like all of the ability Reshiram's Charizard decks are like a sign that like people were moving that deck forward. Then there was like the 4-Judge Pikarom deck that like was something new, like in the replacement of Marshadow. They had that hand disruption, and it was interesting they did that over like Reset Stamp. Shintaro's list for Blacephalon that he got second with was like totally different from any list that we had seen. He also played 2 of the new Naganadel GX. So like even with the decks that we would say were like more traditional and well known, there was a lot of like, whoa, people are doing that with this deck. So I feel like Worlds was really neat just because so much stuff was just being like busted out, and it was really cool.
Yeah. Talk about the Pidgeotto deck for a second. Pidgeotto saw play in 2 weird decks over the course of Worlds. We saw, of course, in the Diet Zoro control deck, you could call it, that popped up that DDG was playing. But also the Behemoth deck actually was undefeated going into day 2 of Worlds. I'm pretty sure he started out 6-0 and then just ID'd into day 2. I don't think he played for other games. But
well, once you get 6-0, they drop you from the tournament. So he was 6-0 and he was done.
Yep. Oh, okay. Well, that shows you how well I did on day 1. I was 6-0. Did get day 2, just not 6-0 starting off at least. But yeah, so pretty cool tournament for Pidgeotto. That's been a card I personally always really loved when we first saw it got printed. I loved Musharna back in the day, and Pidgeotto is kind of a new version of that. So it was cool to see that pop up. Speaking of Shintaro's deck, the Blacephalon deck, I remember watching one of his games on stream. I saw he had Heatran GX on the board. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then I actually still haven't looked at his official list, so I really hope I'm not about to embarrass myself by saying this, but like I remember he had a Heatran.
I'm looking at it right now.
Okay. Well, he had a Heatran play, and then I was watching the stream, and I'm near side, by the way. I didn't have my glasses, but he was searching his deck. I'm pretty sure he grabbed a second Heatran GX. Can you confirm really quick?
He played 2 Heatran. Yep.
I was like, what? Like, I thought 1 was pushing it, but so we saw.
Well,
what's that?
Real quick, just to interject really quickly, if you're a viewer of Rare Candy and you've watched our top 10 Unified Minds cards, one of us might have given Heatran that honorable mention because we saw this coming a mile away. That card is super good.
Hey, we honorable mentioned Behemoth and Heatran. Those were on the list.
We really nailed it, boys.
We did.
Anyway, go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good.
We're shameless plug in our own video on our own channel.
Listen, I think we're all really good. That's all I have to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, but just really cool. Also, I remember I forget who I was talking to, but I forget if they were in day one of Worlds or just watching. But they told me they saw a Slowpoke Psyduck mirror match happen, and I was like, what? Like just to see that deck alone is kind of interesting. And I remember seeing it in day one, saw it in day two, and just in general, day one when I was like kind of walking around, I saw a fair bit of Pikarom, a lot of Malamar, and then most of everything else was like really weird stuff. I sat next to an Alolan Executor deck at one point, like the with the Levani and all that, and then next to me was a Fossil deck, and I was like, what? Like, what is this meta that we're in? So a lot of people did get very creative, and even like within some of these more traditional archetypes, like you guys are saying, we still saw some innovation, like the ability Reshizard. I think most everyone had kind of written that off. Most people were pretty unanimously in support of the greens version, and everyone kind of thought the ability version was bad, and we saw players show up and have pretty good success with that, despite being can you imagine that, having like everyone in the community say, dude, this deck is so terrible, and probably like some of your buddies are like, bro, this deck is terrible, and you still show up and do well. That's got to be a good feeling. So yeah, just a lot of innovation. I think part of that too is just because this was a completely new format. It's not just like Unified Minds got just thrown into the mix. We had the rotation last minute before Worlds. So I think that, of course, spurred a lot of innovation and had people looking at cards differently had we still just kept a lot of the same old stuff over and over. So, I was actually puzzlingly surprised. I thought this could have been an event which could have gone where people just, because it's a new format, they just kind of stick with what they know and play it safe. But we saw just a ton of creativity at Worlds this year, which I thought was really cool. So, talking about another deck, I think that a lot of people had kind of written off was the Mewtwo Mew like toolbox deck that went on to win Worlds, which was definitely something I did not expect. I mean, Blacephalon getting into the finals, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I thought Blacephalon was a very good deck for Worlds and played like a variant of it myself. But to see the Mewtwo Mew toolbox deck do well really, really caught me off guard. That was a deck I messed around with a little bit. To me, it always kind of felt like very high tier 2. It never really felt like it was going to be a front runner deck or anything like that. And so I'm still not sure if the guy who won, I don't know if he played in day one of Worlds. If he did, I don't know if he played the same deck. As the reason like I was kind of surprised by that deck having a good showing was because the sheer amount of Malamar, and I do not think the Mewtwo deck has a very good Malamar matchup. And so if that guy was able to like dodge the field and just never hit Malamars, I could see how he did so well. But that was one thing that deterred me from wanting to play the deck, was because of how terrible its Malamar matchup seemed to be. So Xander, I'll pass this one over to you. What did you think about the Mewtwo Mew deck showing up and having a good showing in day 2?
I think it's super cool. I was not necessarily ready for it. Sorry, I'm trying to multitask and figure out if he played in day 1 of Worlds.
He did.
But he did not play in day 1 of Worlds? Okay,
no,
cool.
That makes a little bit more sense then.
Okay, well, either way, that's super sweet. I'm glad that you did that so I didn't have to go through all of Pokemon's rankings for Australia and figure out if he was in the top 8.
I believe he was number 1.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you're informed because I'm not.
He's one of my friends.
Okay, well, there you go. Well, I think it was super sweet. There were a lot of different lists that even came out too. Like the list that won was playing like pure psychics, but there were other lists that played rainbows, and they would add in stuff like Greninja GX that could shuffle in the Mewtwo after it took a hit, as well as some other neat attackers. There were lists that played Cabalion, but the GX attack you could use it anyway, stuff like that. And then there was even a variant that played Blastoise, which a cool thing about the Blastoise list is that you can put the normal Blastoises into play, the non-GX one, and then use the attack of the Blastoise GX from your discard pile, so you can still get like the Blastoise combo without having to waste Squirtles into the Blastoise GX. So that's really neat.
To be clear, though, that was like kind of a separate deck, wasn't necessarily the toolbox deck.
Not necessarily the toolbox deck. It did play like a few random things, but like it wasn't necessarily as like the one that showed up more was definitely the list that won Worlds. But I think this deck is super sweet and has a lot of ways that it can grow, because anytime that we now see a attacker that has like a fair bit of colorless in its cost, is like, well, does this fit in the Mewtwo deck? The text that it ran worked out really well. And looking at the list that won, there were some things that were different than most of the other lists. I don't think a lot of lists played Magcargo GX, which he played as a one of, which was really unique. And then there were the other relevant card was Marshadow being the only non-GX in his deck. I don't know if a lot of lists are playing that card either, but it is a really great way to just be able to bump a power plant without having another stadium. So he realistically had like 5 ways to get rid of power plant between that and the 4 stadiums. But the strength of the deck is just being able to kind of come out of nowhere and put multiple energies into play in one turn, and you have good attacks at 3 energies and at 5 energies if your Mewtwo stays around for long enough. You have Latios for the tag team decks, which you can use without having a full bench, which is really cool. Since the ability's on Latios, you don't get the ability, you just get the attack.
Good point.
So one of the first rounds I saw of Worlds was just him using that attack with a Latios on his bench over and over again, and just like winning because, or not him, but the Mewtwo player that was on stream, because the Pikarom deck wasn't ever able to get past it. So I guess kind of like through my multitude of points, I think that the Mewtwo deck is super sweet. It has a lot of like space that it can adapt for a metagame, and I think that going into these upcoming metagames, they might be adapting some more to kind of play like a longer game. Girafarig could see some more play in decks to get rid of the stage 2s out of the discard pile, because you can bench the basics and use their attacks all you want, but the Solgaleo and the Magcargo that this deck plays and the Naganadel GX, those are all things you have to use from the discard pile. You can't use those because they're in play because you don't have a way to put them into play. So maybe it plays more like Solgaleo GXs so that you can get your energies back, assuming that one is going to go to the Lost Zone. But overall, I feel like I am talking over myself a little bit. The deck is super sweet, and I'm really glad to see that it won. And I think that if I have any say in what the Worlds decks are, we could end up in like a 4 tag team Worlds decks metagame, which I think is really excited between Pikarom, Reshizard, this, and then hopefully Guardian from Seniors as the 4th one. It'd be super cool. So I'm really excited to play this deck come November, December.
I mean, going into Worlds, I did not think that Mewtwo was a tier 1 deck. I still don't really think it's a tier 1 deck. I think it's high.
Same spot as you, Carl. Go ahead.
I think it's a high tier 2 deck. That said, this deck, I've played around with it a little bit, and to me it has one of the highest skill ceilings I think in the game right now. It feels brutally hard to play in the beginning because you don't really know. You have so many ways you can win a game, right? So it's which GX to use, when to use the GX. You really have to have a game plan going into every matchup you have, and Henry's win, to me, signifies the amount of work, time, testing that went into running this deck against everything. And when you bring that deck into a wide open metagame like Worlds, you have to know it inside out, upside down. You have to have a game plan for the stuff you didn't test that much against or you weren't really expecting. And it's clear that all happened. I played about 10 games with it so far. It's pretty hard to play, I'm not going to lie. But it feels like one of those decks where it pays off the more you put into it. And for that reason, I don't think it's going to be that popular. It is undoubtedly strong when you figure it out. However, I do think that the skill ceiling on it is just like super high, but the floor is also very low. So like if you don't spend time with it, test pretty much everything against it, it's not going to pay off for you. So, I mean, I think the deck is great. It's super fun. You could do a lot of stuff with it. I wouldn't necessarily put it in tier 1, I don't think. But, I mean, it's a threat everywhere. Like, if you play against somebody playing it, I would be very nervous about it because that would indicate to me that they know the deck inside out. And they know the matchups and stuff like that. But it takes time, for sure. I think the list is great, though.
Yeah,
I thought the Magcargo GX was super saucy.
It's a cute card, for sure.
Yeah. There's a lot of, like what you were saying about which GX attack you use. Like against Pikarom, the matches that I saw, sometimes they would just use Clear Vision out of the beginning, Latios' GX, so that they can't tag bolt them back. But like you're in those situations in the early turns where it's like I have to make this decision now because later on I'm not going to be able to get the chance to use this attack to stop their tag bolt. So you really have to be thinking far into the game and knowing those matchups, like how am I going to win the game? And some of them are more straightforward, like I'm going to take 2 tag team knockouts hopefully and win the game. But in that case, there's also like, how do I lose the game? And you lose the game by getting a Mew Mewtwo and a Day knocked down one shot, and then they just like find a random prize here and there. So I think that what you guys are saying with it being high tier 2 is correct, but for as long as people can kind of like stay a step ahead of the metagame and expect where people are going to be, it could win just like every tournament from here on out, assuming that people are bringing it and they're ready for the meta. And since we don't have a set for a while now, since Unified Minds came out before Worlds, this could just be the deck until a lot more new decks are introduced to the metagame.
I think I'm not sure if this deck gets better or worse after Worlds, just because, like I said, I think the big thing that was like really holding it back is just Malamar. And but Malamar didn't have the greatest showing at Worlds. We saw a ton of it. I forget the exact number, but it wound up, once you combined all of the Malamar variants, I think it actually might have been more than Pikarom. Like
when you combined all the Malamar variants, it was about 30% of the metagame, and Pikarom was 21%. But that is like you're lumping Ultra Malamar, Chomptina, and Psychic Malamar into that.
Yes.
Which I'm not gonna say that those are like completely different decks. It's just like what attackers do you splash into your deck. But Malamar was 30% of day 1, and then day 2 it was definitely nowhere near as high.
So it's a deck like the Mewtwo Mew deck is like just super poorly positioned when you have a ton of Malamar in the meta. Even like with Jirachi GX in the deck, like sometimes they just go custom catcher, or what if they're playing like the heavy sniping versions with the Espeon Deoxys, stuff like that. They can just like pick off the Jirachi, and then your Mewtwo just get like whomped on by Giratina. So I think that was the big thing, like I said, that kind of turned me personally off of the deck. But with Malamar not doing that well despite showing up in high numbers, maybe Malamar will see less play, making Mewtwo Mew a better play going forward. I'm not really sure, but like, I don't know. I always feel like there's just like people in your locals, like who like more casual players who will just play Malamar no matter what, just because it's like it's never really a bad deck, but it's never really like the play. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure how it's gonna be positioned.
It doesn't beat anything, man. Like the deck doesn't beat anything.
Did you find that a lot of players in Worlds were playing custom catchers in their Malamar? Because I feel like a lot of the lists that I saw, I would say more than half were not playing custom catcher, and that could have been part of the reason that deck was able to perform so well. Like it's a hard deck to find space in already, because you're having to try to justify more consistency cards because you lost Ultra Ball and your deck, even with Ultra Ball, wasn't that consistent. Yeah. So,
well, I saw. I think I played against 4 between day 1 and day 2, and I think 2 of them had them, and 2 of them, if they had them, I never saw them. So
I think that they play the 4 customs or they play the Esper. So you can count on one of those 2 things happening.
Yeah, the Esper is a super sweet tech.
I saw every Malamar that I saw had custom catcher, and I mean, for the deck that I played, Esper really doesn't do too much, but I still saw it a couple times. But I saw much more custom than I saw Esper. Gotcha. So that was my experience.
So I mean, we'll have to kind of see like the role Malamar takes in the format going forward. But if people see that it didn't perform well and it starts seeing less play, then Mewtwo Mew might be better positioned. I'll say this: if you can dodge Malamar the first couple rounds of a tournament, you're probably good, because I think the better players in the game will not be playing it. No offense to Mally, but just I feel like most of the better players will probably be playing other decks. But we'll see how it goes. I guess continuing to talk about like the Mewtwo Mew deck, I think one of the other big things that had a lot of people talking, of course, was the controversy that occurred during the finals with Shintaro getting hit with a pretty hefty penalty. So Shintaro was the player playing Blacephalon, against the Mew and Mewtwo deck. And I unfortunately was not able to watch the finals. I opted to sleep in. I was like, I can just watch them on YouTube later. I'm sick of only getting 5 hours of sleep. We're going to sleep in today. So maybe you guys can talk more specifically about what happened here. So Carl, did you watch the finals?
Yeah, I did.
All right, so tell us
Um,
some of your thoughts on um, this whole mess of events that happened.
well, without getting too controversial, I like that it happened. I do like that Shintaro was penalized heavily in the most visible game of the year for not his first offense, a multitude of offenses over the course of a tournament. I love that. Did it taint the finals? Absolutely. No doubt. But that's not Henry's fault. That's Shintaro's fault. Um, I like the fact that this kind of thing happened and people are talking about it because that puts everybody on notice, right? Like about the enforcement of the rules. Do I wish judging was more consistent across the board? Absolutely. I think that's a separate conversation. I do like what happened to Shintaro because, like, let's face the facts. Like, he had a minute to promote, did not, was warned, had 30 additional seconds, and then got his penalty. Like, you know, it's Blacephalon, right? Like, you have one plan to take a knockout on the next turn, or else you probably lose, right? So I don't know. I'm glad it happened. It kind of is a bummer that it happened in the most that it reached that point in such in such an important match. Obviously, the most visible match of the entire season. But I'm glad it happened because I think that consistent judging and penalties are a big problem right now, and I think that to have that kind of thing happen puts everybody on notice to where you have to play at a consistent pace. And if not, there's going to be a harsh penalty. I enjoy that. So I liked it.
I'll side in with that too because I feel like every tournament that I've played at recently, like at least the ones with RK9, the tie percentage has still been like 20, 21%. And Worlds, I don't think was too far from that. I think it was pretty close to that like average. And I think that just like letting players know that like there's not necessarily like top player privilege in this case where like Shintaro's a world champion, he's still getting penalties and like the rules are rules no matter what. And also like letting people know that like their actions will like not necessarily like anything else for slow pay that he's done has happened on purpose, but like the penalties do add up over the sake of a tournament. And did it totally warp finals? Absolutely. But like that was due to his actions throughout the tournament, and those were like the consequences of his actions. And like, does it suck as a spectator? Yeah, I'll admit that. But like as a player who like plays the game and knows that rules are important and completely justified, like I would rather them do something about it than we be on the other side of the coin and Shintaro wins Worlds, and we're looking at this going, okay, well, he took 2 minutes to make every single decision that he made in the game and slow played multiple people throughout the tournament. And none of this is saying that anything that he does is intentional. It's really easy to unintentionally slow play. If you've ever tried, like, test in playing best of 350 minutes, because you don't realize how slow you play until you play in best of 350 minutes pretty frequently.
Right.
But as you do that, you'll realize, like, it's really easy to unintentionally play slow. And even since finals had a 75-minute timer, you still have to like still be playing to pace. So is it a bummer for like people who are going to go back and watch like 5 years from now to be like, oh, what was the format like in 2019? Totally. But like when we're sitting at it today, I'm glad that penalties are still happening. People are seeing like the rules are rules. It's Worlds and nothing's different than if it was a League Cup. So like I think that all is well and like correctly done.
Yeah, I would kind of tend to agree. It's unfortunate just because you don't want, like Carl said, the most visible game of the year to be to be skewed in such a way like this. It's unfortunate for Shintaro to think about, oh, what would have happened had that game just been allowed to conclude as normal. But unfortunately, that's just not the case. But like you guys said too, it's good that even these players of high caliber are getting treated the same as maybe more unknown or local players at smaller events. So that's definitely good. I think some of the frustration from the community was from I think there was talk of another kind of high profile player not getting similar penalties for taking a long time for actions. I think that's where some of the frustration was coming from some members of the community. But overall, I tend to kind of agree with you guys that it's good to keep people accountable. And and that's even coming from me. I am a fairly slow player, not a not slow player in the sense that I'm trying to manipulate the time, but just I take a while to complete action sometimes, and I've had my fair share of warnings about it too, and a lot of times it's not intentional. Especially if you are in the finals of the biggest game of the year. It's going to be the difference between second place and being the world champion. That's huge. You have a lot of pressure on you, a lot of eyes on you, and so I can see how people might freeze up and they might have a bit of a brain fart sometimes, and it's totally understandable. But it wouldn't be a major event of the year without some sort of controversy happening. we almost got there.
I mean,
go ahead, Xander.
No, it's okay. I mean, there's just people arguing for like chess clocks and like untimed finals and stuff like that. And like Magic the Gathering has untimed finals, and they still issue like slow play warnings during their untimed finals. So like that's not really a fix. And chess clocks are abysmal. If you guys want me to do a 30-minute video on that, I will have a 10-page paper for you right now. It's so bad. Don't do it. So like rules are important because we can't just like allow players time in the world. And especially if you think of it from the sense of us streaming, we can't have commentators just sitting there like doing nothing while the player's considering stuff. And like thinking about the game, Shintaro did have like, if he drew like an energy switch or something, it would have been better if he promoted one thing, because there was a way that he could get a knockout. And if he drew anything else, it was better for him to promote something else so that he could like work his way through it. So like, to be fair, there were situations like that he was figuring out, but like pace of play is still a rule. And so I'm glad that the judges were doing that. It sucks for everyone. We all know it. But like rules are rules, and games must go on. So,
yeah, and I think the common argument is, it's a 75-minute game. That does not matter. It could be a 2-hour game. The rules are the rules, right? And that's the context. Go ahead.
Well, the argument would be like, what is the reason for this rule being in place? And then you have to ask, is that reason that this rule is in place applicable to this specific situation? So I think that's where you might get a little bit of a counter argument on that.
Sure. It's promoting a Pokemon, right? Like, at the end of the day, that's what it is. And it does not, it does not take a minute and 30 seconds. It simply does not. Like, you think about, there's 2 routes this can go down. I could promote the Neg, or I could promote the Blacephalon. What do I need, right? I'm glad it happened. Rules are rules. Follow them. Play swiftly. Think about what you're going to do when your Pokemon gets knocked out on your opponent's turn. And, learn from it,
And to you, the viewer, test and best at 350 minutes.
Yeah. Another reason why I hate Malamar, by the way. It's impossible to take 12 prizes in 50 minutes if you lose game 2. Because I'm winning game 1. Anyway. Go ahead.
To Carl's credit, I never lost game 1 at all against Malamar throughout the 2 days at Worlds. So
no, absolutely not. If you lose game 1, Malamar is like the Pidgeotto deck, right? They have to win game 1, or else they're not going to win the set. They're just not going to. They're going to tie.
Well, it's not like decks are. It's not like Malamar's like the Malamar decks from maybe 3 sets ago or something, where they were heavily GX oriented Malamar decks. It's like, no, they're essentially Giratina decks that play like a 1 Ultra Necrozma or a 1 Garchomp Giratina as like a closer, but they're essentially 1 prize decks is how they're being played. So
it's go ahead, Xander.
No, I was just saying, I rode up with Noah Sawyer, and he was playing Ultra Malamar in day 1 with 1 Ultra Necrozma and 1 Metal Energy, and that's what the list did. Or I think he might have played 2 Metal Energy, but basically, like, these are not decks that are trying to win the game fast. Like, you're going to attack 6 times, and maybe you take 6 prizes, and if you don't, you still lose, and then you, like, at minimum tie.
Yep. Trash deck.
Okay, so,
Carl's just like, if you can play big basics more, you don't tie as often.
Dude, I'm just salt because I Magical Miracle twice in the Open as time was getting called, and they had a dead board, and they wanted to tie. Yeah, I'm just salt about that, like, still. So anyway, don't play Malamar. It's bad. Don't play it.
To be fair, Guardy Sylveon's not the fastest deck either, Carl. You're not exactly
I didn't ask for you to be fair, bro.
Okay.
I just want you to put your hand. I want you to put your hand back in your deck and take this beating. All right, that's it.
You're like, just let me complain. Like, why do you have to be all rational and objective about things?
If Carl had his choice, the GX attack would say, if this Pokemon has 3 extra fairy energy attached, your opponent concedes the game and goes to the next one.
I mean, they may as well, most of the time.
Yeah. Joke.
Hey, Carl, you can't get angry when you don't play in the open.
All right. So, I'd say maybe moving closer towards the end of this discussion, guys. Worlds is kind of behind us. We're, fresh into the 2019-2020 season. What are maybe some goals for you guys this season, or maybe your plans this season as far as chasing down an invite, or, even outside of an invite, any personal goals for your performances or whatever it might be? Xander, I'll start with you for this one.
Well, I'm probably not going for an invite because I'm a senior in college and I'm getting married this year, so not necessarily going to be doing that. Thanks, friend. But going to tournaments whenever I can. Knoxville is only 2 hours away from my house. There's like a lot of regionals that are within like 5 hours, so it's kind of hard for me to say no to those. Gonna try to maybe like borrow a card here and there and play at some events, but I still I'm frustrated that not this season, but last season when I played really hard, I had 2 top 64s with Sylveon that could have very easily been day 2s, had like a little bit of things gone differently, and I had 1 day 2 this year at St. Louis, which was really funny because I did really bad and then like didn't even matter. I just wish I could have just hung out more day 2. So I guess at least day 2 at regional just to kind of keep the train rolling, and then like go to some cups just because they're fun, and it's nice to just like play random stuff. Like I don't like playing decks that I know I'm not gonna have fun with. So it's just like I can't force myself to always play the good decks. So I'm just gonna force myself to play something fun. And I guess my goal for this season is to have as much fun as I can. Like I'm not gonna be like going to cups and playing bad decks. Like I'm gonna try to at least make it like tier 2 or minimum. But I don't want to be just like doing the annoying thing. And like some of the events I'm going to are expanded, and it's just like I might just like stick with like the good deck because like I still haven't played expanded Pikarom, and that deck just seems ridiculous, and so I'm probably just gonna like slot that in expanded and not really care about my life. Like it's just dumb. Like you get Max Elixir, dang.
Yeah, dude, I feel you so hard on the hate playing decks that I'm gonna be bored with, because that's like me now. So my first goal this year is to play tier 1 meta gas at every single event. Because if you know me, you know that the one half season that I played tier 1 meta gas, I did not fail to get points.
Dude, try hard Russ is a real thing. Now it's just try hard Carl.
Try hard Carl? Yeah, I like it. So this season I will have an invite if I play enough, which I'm going to be playing a whole ton, so that's cool. A unique goal that I have is to win 4 challenges. And people are like, challenges? You're going to go to challenges? Are your challenges very hard? No, they're not hard, really, at all. The thing is, I'm a member of Rare Candy, right? Like, I love it. It's super fun. I have a stream that's, like, super cool and a nice community. But I do nothing locally at all. And I think that if I go to challenges, that's going to help grow the game, like, out there instead of, like, on here, which I think is super important. Because I'm pretty visible now, and I think that it's important to like grow it where you're at. That's going to make the competition here better. It's going to make the game bigger here, and I don't do any of that. And I don't support my local league, and that's bad, I think. And I need to start doing that, and that's like a big goal for me. So winning 4 challenges to me would indicate that I've been doing more locally for the game here, and that's important to me. Other goals are just like top 8 in regionals, top 16 in regionals, things like that. I need to get more disciplined in my testing, though, because I go online and I play a lot of memes. I play a lot of like Vikavolt, and I don't. For the amount that I play this game, I should be way better than I have been, and I think that the discipline that I'm intending to grow this year, as far as testing goes, as far as deck choices go, are going to get me to where I want to be, because it's cool being a nice guy and friendly, but I want to be the whole thing. And I think this year we're going to try to get there. Yeah, we're going to try. So, right. So top 8, invite, grow the game locally, and get everywhere, play often. and play Tier 1 meta gas.
Try hard, Carl. Give it a
Try hard,
hashtag.
Carl. Engaged.
So those are actually really good goals. I think that is something to keep in mind as far as like trying to grow your local community. I think it's something I think some of the most competitive players can lose sight of that because they're always traveling every weekend, and they always have your eyes on these bigger events. So yeah, sometimes league challenges and smaller events do get kind of lost in the shuffle sometimes, but yeah, it's definitely a good goal to have, I think. But for myself, I'm honestly not sure if I'm actually going to pursue an invite this year, which actually kind of bums me out because I'm actually ecstatic that Worlds is being held in London this year. I think that's amazing. And I think it's actually a great incentive to go for an invite. A lot of people have been saying kind of the opposite. Oh, it's so expensive to travel and stuff like that. But I think that would be an incredible experience since all of the Worlds I've been to have been here in the States, and being able to get outside the country and all that would be something I think would be really incredible to be able to compete at an event like that. That would just be really cool. But so for me personally, it just comes down to some stuff in my personal life. Like me and my girlfriend are looking to, moving out and stuff like that. So we might be saving up money to get a place together. Also, too, I would like to just be able to invest more time here on the channel for you guys. So as you probably have noticed, when we all went away for Worlds, I mean, it was like a desert as far as content goes because we were all away playing and stuff like that. And so I wouldn't mind maybe diverting some of my energy back into rare candy and putting more time into the channel. So it's tough because playing at a high level and going to all these events does affect content creation and vice versa. Like very, very frequently. It's not something we talk about. Partially for the reason I don't want you guys to feel bad or anything like that because I'm putting energy into specific types of content that take away from my testing, and I don't want you guys to feel like that or anything. But so frequently, there's so many decks that come out of a set that, as an example, we need to cover just because they are relevant in the discussion. Not all of them end up being that great, but they still need to be covered. And so a lot of times you end up creating content for decks that you're probably not going to play at major events and stuff like that. So both things do eat into one another. Like for Worlds, I actually didn't even get to start really testing for Worlds and probably until like a week and a half prior to the main event. I had done, as you guys saw, a bunch of testing on the channel for like trying out some of the new decks early on. But I'd say as far as serious testing goes, I wasn't able to just because of, obligations to running Rare Candy and, some of the other behind the scenes stuff for Rare Candy, like the business aspects, like sending out like orders from our online store or making thumbnails and graphics for some of the videos that the other guys were producing. So there's being a competitive player and running a YouTube channel definitely kind of cannibalizes each other sometimes is basically all I'm getting at. And I think maybe this year I'm going to try to just concentrate more on growing the channel. I think that will be a good thing for the game overall. And these guys are still going to be, out there representing all these major events. And I'm still planning on going to some major events. I'm not going to like completely, fall off the face of the earth. Like I've already kind of told myself I'm going to go to Toronto regionals or wherever Canada is this year. Me and Carl have kind of made that like a tradition at this point. So even though that's probably the most inconvenient North American regional I can get to, that's the one I'm for sure going to.
I got you, man. I pick you up from the airport. I make it real special for you.
Yeah,
dude,
yeah. So, I mean, I'll be going to that, and I'll probably go to a couple of others. And you never know if I have an especially good finish that like really catapults me, into the race for getting an invite. I still might go for one. I'm still going to go to cups and challenges when they're convenient for me. But overall, I'm not going to be on my grind as much, which kind of breaks my heart. But again, you have to pick and choose, man. It's any other content creator will tell you it's very difficult to be a very serious competitor and also, run a successful channel on top of it. So that's where I'm kind of putting my priorities this season. So it's bittersweet, but it'll be okay. So
Can we backtrack real quick to how awesome it is that they actually did Worlds in London? We were talking about this.
We didn't even talk about
Okay, so we were talking about this in the car ride. I rode up with myself, Noah Sawyer, Zachary Duncan, and Sam Cole, and we were talking just like, hey, where's Worlds going to be this year? Just kind of the usual speculations, and we were like, it'd be super awesome if they did it in London because Sword and Shield's based in the UK, but there's no way they would do it because of like spectators. They just get so many people from it. And so we were all like, we all set London aside. We were like, there's no way that it happens. And then we were going to stay for closing ceremony, but it was like an hour after finals. And so we were like, no, we're not going to do that. We'll just watch it in the car. And then they were like, well, we will see you guys in London. And I was like, oh my freaking goodness. They actually did it. And you know what? It's super cool. Americans, be mad all you want, but like Europeans, they've never had this opportunity to have Worlds so close to them. So like, good for them that they get it over there. Sword and Shield is based in the UK, or based, whatever. Yeah. So it's really awesome that like we kind of get to have some of that experience as like we play Sword and Shield this year, and then we get to see it. And it's just like Worlds does like kind of like I hinted at this earlier a little bit, but Worlds in America for us hasn't ever really felt like a really big World Championships because we haven't really had to go anywhere. Like the Pokemon players that are really showing off the world for Pokemon are the people that are going for their top 16 invites or stuff like that. So like I'm glad that Worlds is this, like, I hope it becomes a cycling thing. I don't think it will, but, like, this is a step going in the right direction for, like, Pokemon Worlds kind of becoming this thing where it's a World Championships. And so I'm super cool. If you're angry that it's in London and you can't go, I'm sorry. I'm in that boat with you. Just go to NAIC and have a great time instead. But, like, good for the game as a whole. Like, definitely awesome that Worlds is in London.
For sure. I mean, it's always kind of been weird because Worlds has always just been here in North America, whether it's been, you know, in the States or Canada. It's always been relatively close for us players here in the States. And, you know, like you said, it doesn't feel that special just driving 2 hours away to go to this, you know, the biggest event of the year. So I think it's really awesome Worlds is in London. Like I said, that, like, I kind of thought that I wasn't going to play much this season. When I heard it was in London, I was like, bro, like, I would love to go to that. I mean, I don't know if I will as a spectator. It's just a lot of money to spend traveling to not even play in the main event. But I absolutely love the fact that it's in London. I think it's super awesome overall. Carl, I know you dipped out for a second there, but did you have any more thoughts on you know, Worlds being in London this year?
Yeah, I love it. And for everybody out there who's a little bit apprehensive about the cost, teach you a little bit about budgeting real quick. We're going to skip eating out once or twice a week. We're going to skip the morning coffee. We're going to put a little bit away every week, $20 maybe if you can. We're going to buy
lowest rarity of every card. No packs the whole season.
We're not icing out like Eric does on his collection.
Buy singles.
Yeah.
And what you can do at flipsidegaming.com, use the code Rare Candy at checkout. Save yourself some money. Yeah. Anyways, go ahead.
So you're going to put a little bit of money away each week, dollar or two, when the time comes to book, April, May-ish. Hopefully you got your invite. And that's going to make it a lot easier. But for all the American players that are cost conscious, it's going to be pricey. I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to be pricey. But I promise you that if you start budgeting now, saving now, this is going to be worth it. Because it is an international trip to a great location. It's going to be a memory that you remember for a long time. Playing on foreign soil, representing your country, there's not going to be a feeling like it. You got 1 year, okay? So just start now. Cut corners when you can. Play every weekend. Minimum rarity. Flipside gaming. You got it. You're good.
And another thing, if you're like going for your invite or you're hoping to, and like your plan is to like go to regionals, but like you're still just worried about the World's travel, if you top 32 or better a regional, you're putting minimum $250 into your pocket to get yourself towards that event. Mm-hmm. So like if you're like you'll probably spend like $250 to $300 on cards singles from Flipside Gaming a season, right? But like you're covering that own cost and you're making that money back to like go to Worlds. So if that's something that you're like one of your goals is to top 32 at regionals anyway, you've never top 32 to regional, you want to like force yourself to get into day 2, something like that. You want to test more, you want to start kind of going for it. then like try to like don't be afraid just because Worlds is like in London that your budgeting is going to come down to it. If you think you're going to go for your invite, like if you're able to top 32 a regional, like it is hard. Like I'm not just going to say this to like everyone's going to be able to do it. But like if your plan is to go for your invite and then skip out on Worlds, like I don't know how many tracks you can do to get your invite and not top 32 a regional to make it to Worlds with 500 points. So like what Carl said, like save your money, live better. Rare Candy's advice, flip side, Walmart.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Like start today. Like everything in life to me is about preparation, right? So like even though Worlds is a year away, you start today, you prepare, get yourself ready for that expense in May, June. Maybe you skip NAIC if you have an invite. Whatever. The point is, if you start today and you devise a plan today and you adhere to that plan, you will be able to pay for Worlds. I promise you. I promise you. But you got to start today. If you're worried about the cost.
Or here's another thing. If it's like a 8 or 10 hour drive, maybe like drive to a regional instead of flying to it. Like that might be, I know that seems like something that might not be as easy, but like if you got a group of 4 people, you're only going to pay like 20 to 30 bucks for gas, where you'd pay so much more to fly to an event. So like you might have to take the time to suffer in your car, but like if you want to make it to Worlds and play in Worlds, there are definitely ways to do it.
Yeah, just do the math, work it out. How will you save money, right? And everything is about preparation. You prepare for an event the same way you prepare to budget for Worlds, right? Like you just have a plan, get ready, execute your plan, and you get there. So I love it. I can't wait to go to London. I won't be there. I won't be there if I don't get the invite, but I plan on doing that, and I don't think it's going to be too bad. I should be all right.
Dude, once you win 8 cups and 4 challenges, you only need 40 more points.
I got those from the Open.
Yeah, there you go. You're done.
Yeah, I'm excited, honestly. That's going to be the trip of a lifetime for me. I'm putting money away now so that I could not even have a worry in the world when I get there. Oh, God, it's going to be cool. I can't wait. I love it.
Here's another thing. Let's say you go for your invite, you get like 100 points shy. All that money that you saved away, it's still your money. Like you didn't lose any money. You just You're not going to Worlds that year. Yeah. So like if you go to Worlds and you get to use it on Worlds, that's awesome. If you don't go to Worlds, cool, you still have the same money. Like it hasn't really gone anywhere. So
everything's about prep, man. Everything.
Be smart.
Yep, 100%. So
what are your thoughts, Eric? Carl and I just kind of like took this whole thing and ran with it.
I mean, I already kind of talked about it a little bit earlier. I'm really excited for Worlds to be in London. It makes me sad that I'm not really going for an invite because I think it would be amazing to play. I think I would I don't know, I feel like a part of me would be really empty if I just went and spectated in London. Like, I don't know if I would really enjoy that too much. Even though I've enjoyed spectating at other Worlds, I think this one in particular, if I went and wasn't playing, I would feel like a part of me would just feel very disappointed. So right now, I'm thinking I'm not going, but like I said, maybe at Toronto when I inevitably go to, or whatever the Canadian regional is going to be this year. Hopefully we get like top 8 or top 4 or something, and that can
whenever you spike an event.
yeah, basically. So
we're gonna do it, man. Like
hopefully so.
You're gonna fly up here. We're gonna take that thing down, and then we're gonna book our Worlds trip right after, and that's pretty much all there is to it. I got the plan all hashed out. Like I know how it's supposed to go.
That.
So we're gonna be there. I'll tell you right now.
Sounds good. Yeah, guys, we had a pretty decent little discussion here about Worlds. This was pretty fun. I guess before we, wrap up, any kind of closing thoughts that you guys have?
Man, I really love this kind of kickback podcasty kind of style thing we got going on. I think it was pretty fun. So let's do it again.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
If you like more of this, let us know in the comments below.
Yes.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Tell us. I'll be streaming for Rare Candy on Twitch coming up once or twice a week from here on out. Now that Worlds is over and the excitement is... Well, not the excitement. I'm always excited. The work of traveling and stuff is, way less. We're going to get to that. We're going to be putting out articles, putting out videos. Guys, we have so much for you. It's unreal. It's just... Wow. That's it.
Yeah, I mean that sounds pretty good, guys. We have, now that we're all we're kind of settled back in. Now that World is behind us, we're gonna kind of get back to all of the normal stuff you guys know and love. The deck profiles, the set reviews, the articles, and streaming, as Carl mentioned as well. Plenty of good stuff coming in the future, of course. We have Hidden Fates just dropped at the time of filming, so maybe we can try out some of the new cards there. And of course, we have obviously Cosmic Eclipse coming up in the coming months as well. But we'll, of course, plenty before then too. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for this discussion. Like Xander kind of mentioned too, if you did enjoy this like post-event discussion style video, of course, feel free to sound off below in the comment section. Let us know what you think. But as always, guys, if you can, like and subscribe, and consider supporting us over at patreon.com/rarecandytcg, or by picking up some merch from our online store, rarecandytcg.com. It would mean a lot. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.